All right, Jim, we are live on Facebook, or not on Facebook, on YouTube. So
Excellent.
just check that. And we're up to 35 people in the meeting.
Nice. Okay.
So for those just joining us, you are here for the District 44 Little League Rules Clinic Night 1. And your hosts are me, Mark Teagle, the UIC for District 44, and redshirt umpire Jim Molaris. We're going to get started real soon. We're just welcoming people. Encourage you to keep your microphone and your camera turned off. If you have a question, you can type it into the chat. Just make sure that it's to everyone so everyone can see your question. And Jim and I will be monitoring the chat and try to answer the questions as we go along. Bear in mind that this is part 1. And so a week from tonight, we will be doing part 2. Each part is unique. We're not repeating material. We will review a little bit, but you need to see both. It'll also be available on YouTube as a recorded meeting, and you can look it up later. You can watch it over and over and over again to your heart's content. But we're glad that you're here, and we're looking forward to hopefully getting out on the field one of these days as soon as it's deemed safe, and it looks like it's going to be sooner rather than later. So thank you all for joining us. If you have any issues with sound or video quality, please do let us know. We're hopefully getting better at this whole Zoom thing, so we'll see how it all goes. For those that have just joined us, welcome. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. This is the District 44 Little League Rules Clinic Night 1. And we're getting more and more folks. For those that have just joined us, welcome. Got to turn down the sound on YouTube. We only have one viewer on YouTube, and that's me. So, but you never know. We may need the overflow because we can only accommodate 100 on Zoom. And we are up to 50 people. And thank you, Lewis, for your feedback on the sound and the video. And we've got some slides. We've got some replays. We're also going to be asking you some questions. Make sure you're paying attention. We're going to do some polling. We'll flash a question up on the screen, and we'll ask you to be ready to click on one of the answers. And then we'll be able to see who's really paying attention and who knows what the heck they're doing. And hopefully Jim and I know a little bit about this. We've been doing it a little while.
I think I see Gerard there, so he'll keep us on our toes and keep us sharp if we miss anything.
That's true. He did tell me he was going to be here.
Excellent.
Well, welcome everyone. It is just about 7 o'clock, and we've got a lot of material to cover, so we're going to be getting started in just a few moments. For those just joining us, this is the District 44 Rules Clinic Night 1. And we're going to be back on Zoom, the same link in a week, and we're going to be doing part 2. And so we want to make sure that you try to join us, but it also is being recorded on to YouTube, so you can watch it there later if you need to. If you need to tell someone how awesome the Rules Clinic was and you don't want to miss it, they can look it up later. So we got people joining left and right. We're up to 70 people, 71 people. This is awesome. Glad that you are here. All right.
We might have to do this virtually every year. This is a great turnout so far, so maybe even beats our live one.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about all of you, but I miss baseball. And I am glad that it looks like we're going to be back on the field, maybe with some modifications, with a lot of cautionary protocols and things. But baseball is one of those vital things that we've missed. And glad that you are here. So we're going to be continuing to admit people as they come in. I got 3 people watching on YouTube now, so we're glad that you are here, and we will keep going. All right, well, I'm going to start officially. Welcome everyone to the 2021 Little League Rules Clinic from District 44. This is night 1 of 2 nights. We will be back here 1 week from right now on the same link. My name is Mark Teagle. I am the district umpire-in-chief for District 44. And I'm here with my good friend, Jim Molaris, who's a redshirt umpire, also a high school and football official and all kinds of other stuff that he's out there doing. And we're going to be presenting to you tonight on Zoom and also on YouTube. So if you have a question, you can just type it into the chat. Make sure it's to everyone. And then Jim and I will try to answer it when we get a chance, but we're going to keep everything moving as we go along. We do ask you keep your camera and your video turned off, but just make sure that you're listening and paying attention, and we're going to have you actually answer some questions. If you're on YouTube, you won't have the polling opportunity, but you can put stuff in the chat. So, and we'll try to take notice of that as well. But we got a lot of stuff going. I think Jim and I each have 3 computers going just to try to keep on top of everything that's happening. But welcome. We're glad that you're here. So we're going to start in with that different aspects of umpiring. And as we're talking about umpiring, there's 3 main aspects: mechanics, the positioning and the way you do things on the field, the rules, and then also game management. And all 3 of those things are important for someone to be a good umpire. Tonight, we're going to focus on the rules. Hopefully we'll get a chance to get out on the field and do some mechanics clinics. And game management, you pick up through experience. You pick it up on best practices and advice from more experienced partners, something that you learn. I've been a Little League umpire for close to 25 years. So, there's a little bit of experience between my 2 ears. And I'm glad to share that with people, hopefully to mentor people. Jim's been doing this a long time too, and he's umpired all over the place and done a lot. And so we're resources. There's a lot of other experienced umpires you want to learn from. But tonight we're going to cover the rules. We're going to go fast. We're going to cover a lot, but hopefully you will learn something. All right. We're also going to, our goal is tonight to educate new umpires. If you're brand new to this, but maybe you're just needing some refreshing, if you're an experienced umpire, and the rules are always changing. So we need to kind of get even the experienced umpires out there. This is also open for managers, coaches, parents. And we want our managers to know what they're doing. We want our coaches to know what they're doing. And we want our parents to know about the game, but also to consider becoming umpires. If you've been a manager and you want to get a promotion, sign up to be an umpire. If your kids are aging out, stick with Little League and stay with it. Find that this is a great way to serve the community. My Little Leaguer is 33 years old, and his playing days ended at 18. But I continue to umpire because I love the game and I love Little League. And I love making a difference, giving back to the community. So we are gonna also look at, okay, let's go over this real quick. I've mentioned keeping your video off. That'll help our bandwidth going to everyone. You should be muted so that we don't have to hear you crinkling or eating Oreos, whatever you're doing at your end. If you have a question, you can type it into the chat, or if you just want to tell Jim what a great job he's doing, you can put that in the chat as well. So we'll try to answer that. And we've got a lot of chat going on YouTube. And so encourage you to do that. We're also going to have some scenarios, and you get a chance to vote on those as they go. So everyone should take a chance to
I'm on YouTube
vote.
too.
And there. Thank you. Okay. Oh, look at that. Jim is doing a great job. All right. So right now we don't have any D44 umpire mechanics clinics scheduled because of the limits on large gatherings. We usually have 60, 70 people at those things, which is too much for right now. So we'll keep watching. As soon as we're able to host those, we will. But we are also looking at doing smaller gatherings, maybe league by league. And if your UIC, your umpire scheduler, can gather a group of people, we'd be glad to come out and work with people in small groups to get them ready for the season. All right. And just a real quick overview. If you haven't looked at the table of contents in your rule book, and not everybody gets a paper rule book. In fact, this year, they're really encouraging you to get the app, $1.99 at the App Store or on Google Play. And you can get the Little League official app that has all the rules in it. It's searchable. It's really actually a great tool, and they will update it for free afterwards with all the new rules and things. But just glancing through this, if you want to know where to find things, and we're going to be touching on a lot of these things tonight. There are regulations at the beginning. Regulation 6 is important for umpires because it talks about pitchers and pitching limits. Regulation 14, if you know how to read Roman numerals, that's a 14. Field decorum, how people are expected to act. The expectations that we have as umpires for the way coaches, players, managers are behaving. And then we get into the actual rules. The objectives of the game are Rule 1. Rule 2 is a great place to find things. It's all the definitions. A lot of things are covered other places, but the big definitions are in Rule 2. Rule 3, game preliminaries. 4, starting and ending the game. 5, putting the ball in play, live ball, dead ball. Then we cover the batter in Rule 6, the runner in Rule 7, the pitcher in Rule 8, and then finally Rule 9 is the most important one because it covers the men and women in blue. So just know where things are, use that search function. All right, and this is still me, right, Jim? It feels like I've been talking.
Yeah, it's still you.
Okay, because Jim and I are going to be taking turns. You don't have to listen to me the whole time.
Mark, one thing I do want to throw out there, you mentioned the Little League Rule app. That's a great resource for people to get. Also, there's great resources on the Little League website for umpires. So if you're a new umpire and you want to get more exposure to maybe some videos and other training, the Little League website has a section devoted to umpires.
They do. And there's also another website that's related to Little League, which is called Little League University, that has some online training that's available. And umpires can also for free join the umpire registry, which gives them access to all kinds of other resources like the rules instruction manual when it comes out, which has instructor comments in with the rules. So a lot of things that Little League does for us. All right, real quick, we're going to cover a couple things about the umpire, Rule 9. Here's the big thing. You are there to make calls, and a judgment call is final. Balls, strikes, fair, foul, safe, out. All right, that is a judgment call. Now, if there is a misinterpretation of a rule, that can be discussed. I'm not going to say argued, but if there is a decision by the umpire that might be in conflict with a rule, they can file a protest. And if that happens, the umpires would talk with one another and see if they need to change that call. If they stick with it, that manager has the opportunity to protest. If he does, we enter it in the scorebook and play on. in regular season. So just know that that is happening. Each umpire has their own area that they cover, their calls. The plate umpire is not going to be in a situation. The plate umpire is not going to overturn the call of the base umpire. Even if it's an adult plate umpire, he's not going to overturn the ruling of a kid out there on the bases. That is their call. You can check with one another, but that's not required. Stick with your call. You make a call, out means out, safe means safe. And coaches and managers should not be trying to get one umpire to overrule somebody else. And we can make a copy of the slides available afterwards. So we'll look into doing that, probably just a PDF version that would be small enough, because it's a pretty big file. There's a lot of videos and things like that.
And Mark, let me just add, I think we tend to get a lot of youth umpires on these rule clinics. And if you're working with an adult, just because there's an adult umpire that's your partner, that doesn't mean that the coaches can go to that adult umpire. If it was your call, they have to come talk to you first. All right. So know that that's the way it's supposed to work. And if you're an adult working with a youth, respect that as well. Direct that coach to go talk to the youth umpire that made the call.
Yeah. As an umpire, you are the representative of Little League International, and you are beholden only to the rule book, not to a coach or a manager, not even to the league president when you're on the field. It's your call. It's your job. You are the impartial representative of the rules there to make calls. So the rules committee has been busy for 2021. We've had more new rules than I've ever seen in 25 years of doing this. And some of them are related to COVID and kind of loosening up to make sure that we can get these games in. But one thing that is you have to worry about is the mandatory play definition. If because in the mandatory play, they have to be play 6 defensive outs in the field and bat at least one time. And the at-bat needs to be an entire at-bat. They have to enter with no count, and then they have to complete that at-bat. If they make it on base now, they can't be lifted for a pinch runner and still have that at-bat count for their minimum play or their mandatory play. And so if that's the one at bat that they need to have count for their mandatory play, they need to complete running the bases until they get put out or the inning ends, or they score. So we'll talk about more with the mandatory play in a little while, but that's a change for this year. So we'll come back to that. And then other new rules for 2021. Jim, if you could advance for me. Sorry, I'm helpless without Jim pushing it. So you can now have a time limit, an official time limit from Little League. So for majors and below, that no new inning can start after hour 45 minutes if that is adopted by your local league. And I also mentioned that if you're doing interlock, that needs to be set up so that it's clear that what the choices are that you are working with. So if the last out of the bottom of the 4th was recorded with 1 second left, you would still play that whole next inning because the time had not yet expired. And the benchmark for that is the 3rd out of the bottom of that inning. It used to be that you could only start and you had to keep 9 players on the field, minors, majors, and above. But now, if your league accepts this, you will be able to start a game with only 8 players. You can continue a game with only 8 players. And so the way that originally was set up, you had to have 9. But if your league accepts this, and we're encouraging leagues to do this, they need to do that. There's also an option in there whether when we reach that 9th player's spot in the lineup, whether an out would be charged automatically or if you skip without penalty. We are recommending the skip without penalty, but that's going to be up to each local league to do that. But for District 44 is encouraging us to do it without penalty. That's more like what happens with continuous batting order. All right, and you can never do this with 7. 8 is the bare minimum for this new rule. So let's keep this going, and remember the questions can come in the chat. We have a new thing called a courtesy runner. This is different than a special pinch runner. This is only for the pitcher or the catcher and or the catcher, and only with 2 outs. This is allowing this person, if they've reached base, they can come off. The person who made the last out can run for them, and or somebody from the bench if you're doing bat 9. But if you're doing continuous batting order, it needs to be the player who made the last out. And that just allows us to speed up the game so the pitcher and catcher can be gathering themselves, be ready to get out there to start the next inning. You can have an intentional walk without throwing pitches, and that can happen at any time during the at-bat. It used to have to happen before the at-bat started, before a pitch was thrown. But now you get 0-2 and you decide foolishly you want to walk the guy, you can do that. You call time and you add whatever balls are left in the walk count to the pitch count, and it gets counted against that pitcher even if he doesn't throw those pitches. And all right. And is that all for the ones that we're going to highlight?
Yes, I think that is it on the significant updates.
All right, let me throw it over to Jim because he's going to talk about COVID, as if we don't talk about COVID enough in our lives.
Yeah. So obviously this is something that is top of mind for all of us. We're not in the clear yet. It's great to see what's happening in terms of vaccinations and things opening up, but there are still some parameters that we need to work within here. Most recently, on February 26th, the Santa Clara County adopted the California Department of Public Health guidance on outdoor and indoor youth and adult recreational sports. The website is here. If you want to take a picture of it, I'll have this slide up for a little bit if you want to see all of this. There's a lot of content there on that guidance. We're just going to focus on those elements that affect the umpire. Okay, and the stuff that happens that affects the playing field. Face coverings. These are requirements from the California Department of Public Health, which the Santa Clara County Department of Public Health is adopting as well. They are strongly encouraged to be worn when participating. So be mindful of that language. Strongly encouraged is not a requirement, but we do strongly encourage it. Face masks must be worn when not participating. And they must be worn by coaches, support staff, and observers at all times. So coaches in the dugout, on the field, have to be wearing masks. Physical distancing requirements from the California Department of Public Health order. As much as possible, 6 feet of social distancing between participants, coaches, and others is strongly encouraged. That's important language there. Strongly encouraged. Obviously, in baseball, what happens around the plate, it's hard to be six feet of distance between participants. The batter and the catcher, regardless of where they're going to be within 6 feet. The umpire, to be in a good position, probably has to be pretty close to the catcher. So hard to do. It's strongly encouraged, but there are parts of the game that it's going to be really difficult to do. Shared equipment requirements. Think of these as baseballs, all right? Pretty much all the players have their own bats and gloves, helmets, and even catchers have their own catcher's gear. But baseballs and other equipment, they can be touched by multiple players if participants wash their hands and use hand sanitizer before play and during breaks. Hopefully we have some league safety officers that are already aware of this and preparing for this with their coaches about hand sanitizing and players washing their hands as much as possible. There was something that was the Santa Clara County Public Health Department mandatory directive on youth and recreational activities, which was much more stringent than this. So if that's something that you were thinking about, that people had to be socially distanced by a requirement that they had to be wearing masks while they were participating, that was all part of that Santa Clara County mandate. Once again, they set that aside and they've adopted the state guidelines. All right. So what does that mean for the umpire with those protocols? Equipment inspections should be visual only for the umpire. Don't be handling the equipment. Do your best with a visual inspection. Plate meetings, limited to 2 managers and 2 umpires. Every once in a while in the past, I've had coaches bring 1 or 2 captains to the plate. None of that. None of that. It's just the 2 managers and 2 coaches, really spaced out. The coaches should be on the outside of the batter's boxes. They should not be inside the batter's boxes. The 2 umpires should be well distanced from the plate. Everybody wearing masks and no handshakes. So during the game, field and plate umpires should always wear face coverings the entire game. All right. We're not participants. The players are the participants. All right. We should be wearing masks the entire game. This isn't a political thing, a political statement. This is what we should be doing. Gloves, if you want to wear gloves, those are allowed. And make sure you bring your own water also. Don't be asking people to go and get you something from the snack shack. Snack shacks may not even be open. So make sure you bring your own water. The plate umpire, they can request, but they can't insist that face coverings be worn by the catcher and batters at the plate. Talk to the coaches at the plate meeting about that. Ask them if they can. Remember, it's strongly encouraged. It's not required, but it's strongly encouraged. Plate umpires can call balls and strikes from behind the pitcher. This takes a really thorough pregame with your partner. There's a lot that you need to kind of really unpack in that pregame meeting about who's going to cover fair foul, who's going to cover fly balls in the outfield, who's got the runners tagging up and touching bases. The mechanics change completely from what we do in the standard mechanics by having 2 people out in the field versus somebody behind home plate and a second person out in the field. So make sure you have a real thorough pregame if that's what you want to do. One thing I should throw out there is if you're not comfortable calling balls and strikes from behind the plate, you might want to ask your partner, hey, do you want to take the plate today? And I'll take the field position. That's always something. You don't have to feel like you're obligated to work the plate if you've got a partner that is willing to do it, if you don't want to work behind the plate. Don't allow coaches to be on the field without a mask. If they want to talk to an umpire, they must maintain a 6 feet of distance. If they want to talk to you about a play, they want to question you about what you saw, they can do that, but they cannot come up and get close to you. They have to maintain 6 feet. They have to keep their voices down. All right. They can't be shouting. We have a conversation about the play. They have to maintain that distance. They have to wear a mask. If they exit their dugout without a mask, stop them right there. Don't let them come on the field without a mask. Swap the balls between the half innings or the entry of a relief pitcher and request that used balls be sanitized before reuse in the game. It's not a requirement, but you can do this. You can request that it happen. Hopefully leagues are thinking about this, that's something that they can prepare for. But swap those balls. If they're prepared to sanitize the balls, take advantage of it. Just make sure they don't get them too wet. Local leagues may be coming up with their own stricter requirements as well. So check with your local league about what they have in mind for COVID-19 protocols. Some other COVID-19 protocols that we're not responsible for is everything that has to do outside of the playing field. So things like mask wearing by spectators, social distancing by spectators, policing who attends the games. There's stuff in the state guidelines about that. That's up to the leagues and the league officials to worry about that. Your focus is what's happening on the field. All right, Mark, do we have any questions in the chat about the COVID that we want to bring forward?
Yeah, I'll just mention one quick thing is that local leagues can be more strict than the county. They have the right on their fields that they can have, they can require masks for everyone. And I think a lot of leagues will request or will require masks to be worn by all participants at all times. Things like that. So just be aware that your league safety officer, your league president is going to be responsible for that. The emphasis that Jim and I want to bring is that you're responsible as an umpire for what happens on the field, and you don't have to be policing anything else. You want to get these games in and concentrate on that, not get distracted by a lot of the other things. But if there's something wrong, make sure it gets fixed and get going, because we want everybody to stay safe and we want to keep flattening the curve like we have been.
Great. Well, with that, how about if we get into some rules? All right. We're going to start with equipment, and this is not a new rule. Now we're going to go over the stuff that's been in the book for a while, plus weave in some of those new rules where they apply. Bats, the bat rule 1.10 has been around for a while. So bats, they can be non-wood and laminated bats. They need to have the USA Baseball logo. All right, I think everybody's probably has seen the USA Baseball logo now. It's there on these examples. The diameter cannot be more than 2 5/8 inches, otherwise known as sometimes referred to as a big barrel bat. That's okay. The big barrel bats are 2 5/8. Length, majors and below, they have to be 33 inches or shorter. The higher divisions can go 34 inches. All the old BPF 1.15 bats are prohibited. It's been a while since I've seen one of those in a game. Not that I umpired one Little League game last year. So one-piece wood barrel bats are okay. They do not require the USA Baseball logo, but they do need to be one-piece wood barrel bats. There are some hybrid bats out there with a composite handle and a wood barrel. Those would need to have the USA Baseball logo on those. And pine tar and other adhesive substances are prohibited at all levels in Little League. We see that in just about every other league besides Little League is the use of pine tar is prohibited in Little League. And a lot of these kids play travel ball and they may forget that. So it's an illegal bat if it's got pine tar on it. So, all right. Batting helmets. The shell of the helmet, no cracks, no decals. They shouldn't be painted. No pine tar, and it can't be mirror-like. I've seen some of those. I think Under Armour has a set that it's very shiny and distracting, and actually can be blinding in the sun. The padding on the inside needs to be properly attached, and it can't be missing. Sometimes you may see some helmets where it's missing some of the foam around the ear. You got to let the coach know that helmet cannot be used. All right, once you're doing your visuals inspection of this equipment before a game, and make sure you're catching that. It shouldn't be damaged with cracks, and there should be no tape, excuse me, not cracked on the padding, no tape around the padding either. The jaw guards are okay if they come from the same manufacturer. If they're from different manufacturers, they need a letter from the helmet manufacturer. I've never had an issue with these C-flaps or the jaw guards, so you probably won't either. Catcher's helmets, a lot of the same things we just covered on the batting helmets in terms of cracks and decals, and padding needs to be all there and properly attached to the helmet. The big thing about catcher's helmet is the number of screws that hold on the cage. That's what I see a lot of times, is that it's missing screws or the screws are really loose. If you're missing one screw on a catcher's helmet, you're probably not going to endanger the catcher. But if it's missing more than one, and you've got other ones that are loose, that helmet cannot be used. They've got to have another one. Make sure that the cage, that's the protective cage, make sure it's not cracked or bent. And the throat guard needs to be a dangling type throat guard and properly attached. Now, properly attached means it's pretty tight to the bottom part of the helmet. I see oftentimes catchers that are coming up with the throat guard that's dangling on 3 inches of twine or something. That's not doing the job when it's dangling down that low. Make sure that that throat guard is up pretty tight to the bottom of the helmet. Catchers, they need to be wearing these helmets at multiple times, not just during the game, but also when they're warming up pitchers. And it could be the pitcher, or it could be the game catcher, but it could also be that kid who's coming in to get the pitcher warm at the half inning while the catcher's getting geared up. They have to have a catcher's helmet on. Also, in the pregame, any form of infield or outfield practice, the catcher needs to be wearing a helmet. I oftentimes walk up to a game and one team's taking their infield, outfield, and here's the catcher. He's got his shin guards on, he's got his check protector on, and his helmet sitting over by the backstop. Not good. Stop them what they're doing right there. It's your job. Let them know, hey, stop. You got to get that helmet on. Don't let them do any more until they do that. All right, so why is it important? Why do we have to wear that? Hopefully this video is going to come through. Let's see what it shows us.
Goes right up under the protection, get him right in the throat. Oh my.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, you can take that thing off the mask then.
That's just an extension of the mask.
That probably hurt more than it looked. That's the reason why we have the players, the catchers, wear that dangling throat guard. All right. So with that, Mark, I think you're going to take it back over, and I'll jump over to the chat.
All right, great stuff, Jim. Thank you. I will mention from an umpire perspective that dangling throat guard is highly recommended, but not required of umpires. I wear one. I make my living talking and singing, and I need my throat for that. And I do not want my larynx to be crushed by a baseball. And then in regard to the screws being loose for a catcher, that's an apt description of pretty much all the catchers I knew. They've all got a screw loose somehow. We're going to talk about pitchers and pitching. So let's go on to our first slide in that set there. So talking about their attire, pitchers have special requirements. Their sleeves cannot be white or gray. If they are wearing a neoprene sleeve, they should be covered by a long sleeve undershirt. Their sleeves actually should be of even length. They shouldn't be uneven. They shouldn't have items on their hands, their wrists, or their arms, like sweatbands or tape. They can wear a a batting glove underneath the fielding glove, as long as it's not white, gray, or optic yellow. Anything that could be distracting in the judgment of the umpire is what we're looking for. We don't want something that's going to give an unfair advantage. They can wear sunglasses as long as they're not those reflective mirrored sunglasses. And oftentimes kids will have prescription sunglasses that they actually need to be able to see. So just, bear that in mind. You see it while the pitcher's warming up, there's an issue, try to take care of it right then. Don't wait till later as we're going along. All right. And then also, here's a definition of a pitch: a ball delivered to the batter by the pitcher. And it can also be some of the other situations that would add a number to the pitcher's pitch count. If there's an illegal pitch that's not thrown, that still gets counted in the pitch count. Anytime you do an intentional walk, that's going to get 4 balls added into the pitch count. And that's going to be important as they want to stretch that pitcher as far as they can. So make sure that the scorekeeper and the pitch counter know about that, because they often don't know those rules. You want to make sure that they know, like for a intentional walk with no pitches being thrown, that you're going to add those pitches to the pitch count. And now we have a lot of pitch count things. Here's one emphasis that we want to make. If you have, in order to move to pitcher from catcher, you have to play catcher for 3 innings or less. If you start catching in the 4th inning, you're no longer allowed to move to pitcher. But you can move from catcher to pitcher. But if you only throw 20 pitches, you can return to the catcher position. But if you throw 21 or more pitches, and there's an exception to that if you're going over the 20 pitch limit while you're still delivering pitches to that same batter, you can still keep doing that. But we want to make sure that these 2 taxing positions, catcher and pitcher, that we are limiting the number of pitches, the number of throws that these folks are making. So pitch count is very important. We want to keep these pitchers' arms healthy so that they can throw a ball past the age of 12. That's an important thing. All right. And then if you are a pitcher, if you get to 40 pitches, then you cannot go to catcher later on. So if you've thrown under 40 pitches, you're still eligible to go and play catcher. And these restrictions are for the day, not for the game. So if you have a double header, be mindful that the pitches that were thrown in the first game are going to have an impact on your ability to do things in the second game. So if you threw 40 pitches in the first game, you're not allowed to be a catcher in the second game, because we just want to keep those folks there. These exceptions that are at the thresholds for the pitch limit rules are all the same. That you can go over a threshold while facing the same batter until that batter reaches base or is retired or the 3rd out is made to complete the inning. So, if somebody keeps fouling off pitches, you can keep throwing it to them and not do the threshold. So pitch counters need to be aware of what threshold was passed during that last at bat, and that's the recorded pitch count for that pitcher. All right. And so you continue to kind of be monitoring with those pitch counters and answer any questions, but you're not tracking the pitch count as the umpire, but you're there to enforce the rules. Defensive timeouts, what we would call a visit to the pitcher. A couple of years ago, this was changed. It was lessened. So now in majors, you're allowed to visit the pitcher once in an inning, and on the second visit, the pitcher is removed. You can visit the pitcher 2 times in a game, and on the 3rd visit, you have to remove the pitcher. In minors, there's 1 more to each one of those numbers. So you don't remove the pitcher until the 3rd visit in an inning or the 4th inning in a game, or 4th visit in a game. And if you're tracking things on your lineup card, you're going to be tracking visits to the pitcher. Keep in mind that if that defensive manager talks to any defensive player, they talk to the catcher, they talk to the shortstop, that is considered a visit to that pitcher. So you can't get around this rule by talking to your catcher and having them run a message out to their pitcher. That counts as a visit. If there is an injury, if they need to go and check on the condition of their pitcher, that is not counted as a visit to the pitcher, but the umpire should go and monitor that conversation to make sure that they are only talking about the injury and they're not talking about, well, how's your arm and throw this guy inside. How's your arm is fine. When they say throw this guy inside, it becomes a pitching visit. Other limitations, majors and below. Once you are removed from the mound, you are done for that game. And so you cannot return as a pitcher. When you get up to intermediate, juniors, seniors, a pitcher can return once in the game back to the mound. The manager is responsible for monitoring that pitch count and be ready to remove them when they have reached the limit for their age group. That is up to the manager, and most managers are real good about doing that. And then we talked about the thresholds. The same thresholds are here. And then another thing that's in the regulations, we mentioned those at the beginning. There's stuff about pitching in the regulations, intermediate and below. Pitcher may not pitch in more than one game in a day. So as we're looking at maybe some double headers and things out there this year, be mindful of that.
And Mark, I'll just mention also there may not be double headers allowed for a while. The current guidelines from the state, Department of Public Health, only allow teams to participate in one contest a day. So
yep,
it's in the fine print of the health order.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. But I think, as the year goes along and we're scrambling to make up games, and that if that restriction gets lifted, we may see more doubleheaders than we're used to once they're allowed. But just to keep that in mind. All right, now we get on to batting. We're going to talk about the continuous batting order. That means that every player present at the game is going to bat. So your batting order might be 10, 11, 12, 13 players, and they just bat in that. We call that continuous batting order, or CBO. Don't get confused. There's no collective bargaining agreement. I guess that would CBA. I'm getting my sports mixed up. But in a continuous batting order game, which is required in minors, is optional, league option at majors and above. Defensive players can be entered and re-entered anytime, as long as at some point during the game they play their 2 innings on defense, or their 6 defensive outs. It doesn't have to be continuous. That is a substitution rule. And in a continuous batting order game, everybody is in the starting lineup because everyone is in the batting order. It just means that some of them are not playing defense all the time. And so if somebody has to leave the game, or if they're injured, their time at bat is skipped and there is no penalty. So you just skip over that without noting it, and the next person becomes the next batter. If they come back, if they miraculously get healed and they're ready to go again, and that happens because sometimes things stop hurting. You get inserted into your original spot in the batting order, no problem. We just play on. If somebody comes late to the game, put them at the end of that lineup that you had, and they get put into that batting order. Note that if you have players that are not there but expect to be late, and the manager wants to have somebody bat fourth, but they're not there yet, they need to be present to be in the original batting order. And so that crackerjack batter that you wanted to bat cleanup, if they're late to the game, they need to be at the end of the batting order when they arrive, and they get added to the batting order. You can't save a spot for them. So that's what is happening with the continuous batting order. You can use the new courtesy runner rule for in continuous batting order. That would have to be for the pitcher and or the catcher with 2 outs. You just take the player who made the last out and put them on to run for them. But the special pinch runner rule is not allowed when you have the continuous batting order, because there's nobody that's not in the batting order that can be used to substitute run for somebody else. So that's just one limitation that we have with continuous batting order.
So Mark, the only thing I'm going to add to this is as far as monitoring the in and outs of the defensive players, it's not up to the umpire to keep track of minimum play time. It's up to the coaches and the managers. And believe me, the moms in the stands are going to be watching to make sure their kid gets his 6 outs. So you don't have to worry about those ins and outs. It should take care of itself. It's too much to try to keep up every half inning with what's happening with defensive changes with the teams.
Right. That is the manager's responsibility to get all of that in. All right. Offensive timeouts, there's 1 offensive timeout per inning. And if you've got a base coach that wants to stop the batter on his way up, you got to put an end to that and say, okay, coach, I'll charge you your 1 offensive timeout and you'll be done for this inning. We want to keep the game moving. So, they can talk at them if they're still moving toward the plate and they're not being slowed down, but we don't want them stopping. We don't want a conversation with every batter. That gets old real quick. And that's how I got all my gray hair. All right. So legal position. Here is a diagram of what the batter's boxes look like, properly drawn. And if you get to the field and your batter's boxes are not properly drawn, there's this little thing called a shoe at the end of your leg, and you can kick those out, and you just have to determine where those lines are, because sometimes they are not drawn very well or all askew, and you want them to be right. But what's important here is the starting position for the batter. We want them to have their feet inside that batter's box. They can, and that includes the lines. They need to start out in the batter's box. So in number 1 and number 2 up there, their feet are outside the line. They cannot start that way. Now they may end up that way, but we're going to require them to start with their feet properly in the batter's box. You see people crowding the plate. They're taking away the inside of the strike zone. They're taking away the inside pitch from the pitcher. That is not a fair thing. So we want to make sure that they are starting out that way. But if they move, then that's their risk during their swing during the at bat. But when they're starting out before the pitch, we want their feet to be in the proper position. I think we've got a picture of that in our next slide. Look where this guy is, and this is in a World Series game, but is his right foot completely inside that batter's box? It is not. This is later in the game. The lines have gotten erased, but the umpire knows where those lines are. You can call time. You can move that batter back. His toe needs to be 4 inches away from the plate when they're starting out. All right. What's our next slide there, Jim? Now, here is somebody that is stepping on the plate. You are out as a batter if you hit the pitch, fair or foul, with 1 or both feet on the ground entirely outside the batter's box. It isn't whether or not you're stepping on the plate, because you can step on the plate and still have your foot on the line. If you're on the line at all, you're still considered to be inside the batter's box for the purpose of this rule. What we're looking for is that foot completely out of the batter's box on the ground, the ball hit, fair or foul, time is called, and the batter is declared out for doing this. And nothing else has happened because the play essentially stops. Are you, as an umpire, watching for this on every pitch? No, you're watching to see whether the ball's a ball or a strike if it's going through that strike zone. You don't need to be watching that batter's feet all the time. But if you see them looking like they're going to be stepping out, you can be watching for that and you can call it, but they have to be completely outside of that box. All right, we are going to talk about bunts. The definition of a bunt is a you're not swinging at, but intentionally meeting the ball with the bat. It's tapped slowly, holding the bat in the strike zone, and it's not an attempted bunt. You have to actually offer at the pitch for it to be a strike. You don't have to pull back. You can actually hold the bat out there, and as long as you don't offer at the pitch, it can't be called a strike if it's not in the strike zone. So you as used your judgment as the umpire. Did he offer or she offer at that pitch? Did they attempt to hit it? They may have started, maybe they pulled back, maybe they didn't. It's up to you, but you can also appeal that to your partner and ask, did he go? Did she go? And they would say, yes, he did, or no, he didn't on a bunt. And then you would make a determination whether it was a strike or a ball based on that. All right, Jim, are we moving on to?
Yep.
And
The ball.
The ball, yes. And I think is you to talk about.
Is that me? Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Mark. All right, rule 2, a pitch, or what is a ball? It's a pitch that's not swung at, and it does not enter the strike zone in flight. Okay, so a ball that bounces before the plate and then bounces up above the plate, above the knees. Well, it's above the knees, but it has to enter the strike zone in flight. It can't bounce before the plate. So if a pitch does bounce in front of the plate and then it hits a batter, that is a hit batsman. A batter can swing at a pitch that comes off the ground. If they miss it, that is a strike. If they put the ball in play, then that play plays out. A third strike that is swung at and not caught, or that bounces in the dirt on the third strike. If that it's a certain situation, we'll go over that I think in a little bit. But first and second, if they are occupied with, or if first base is open, then that batter can run down to first base. Or if there are 2 outs and there's a runner on first, then that third strike that's swung at and not caught, that batter can run down and try to achieve first base. Now, Rule 608B, a batter must make an attempt to avoid being hit by a pitch. Now, this is Little League, and especially if you're working minor games, be really generous about what avoiding a pitch means. These kids don't know how to read the pitch very well, okay? So give them the benefit of the doubt, not the pitcher in Little League. But let's take a look at some examples of what batters not making a very good attempt at trying to get out of the way of a pitch.
For Donaldson, on top of that, he's playing a better third base, I think, this year.
Donaldson.
One more time. Watch, it's a curveball. Watch Josh just stick the elbow out there with the pad.
All right.
I mean,
so everybody saw him lean into that, I think, right? So that's not, you got to be on the lookout for that. Who's got the best seat in the house to see that? It's that gentleman in black right there. He saw that.
Went out there to go.
After 30 games.
Yep, went inside and hit him.
He didn't try to get out of the way.
He did not. They're going to keep him right there.
Second time we've seen that on this trip.
Peterson will not be given. And it also happened.
Move his leg right into it. And, yep, I want to get hit with it.
It's a good call by the umpire.
That hit him. Victorino hit again. The third time in this series that Victorino has been hit by a pitch.
His arms hanging almost over the plate to where close enough. It almost could be a strike, but the back arm, elbow.
So this is a good one to look at here. If the ball is in the strike zone when it touches the batter, it's a strike. It's a dead ball. Runners can't advance whenever a batter's hit by a pitch, even one that's in the strike zone or one that they swing at and they get hit. The ball is dead. Some umpires might say that pitch is in the strike zone, in which case it is a strike. The batter is not awarded first base. All right. An intentional walk. It applies to majors and minors. It can be given without a pitch being delivered. So it can be done at the beginning of an at-bat. The request can be made before any pitch is thrown or at any time during the bat. So last year, we talked about the rule changes. This is one of those rule changes. Now, a manager can request that the batter be put on first base at any time during the at-bat. It can happen at the beginning. It can happen at any time. They do need to request time, and time needs to be granted before that award can happen. And no runners can advance during that time unless they're pushed forward by the batter who just has been awarded first base through the intentional walk. And each non-pitch is added to the pitch count. So if it's 2 balls and no strikes, the coach says time, I'd like to put that, and time is granted. And the coach says, the manager says, I would like to put that batter on first base. 2 more pitches are added to the pitch count, and make sure that you let the scorekeeper know that's 2 more pitches to the pitch count. All right, a strike. There are a lot of ways to get strikes. First, it's got to be a legal pitch, struck at and missed. If it's not struck at, that it passes through the strike zone in flight. We already talked about that. It can be batted foul. It can be bunted foul. It can touch the batter as the batter strikes at it. So if they swing and it touches them, it is a strike. If it touches the batter in the flight in the strike zone, it is a strike. We talked about that with that, I think it was Shane Victorino video. And a foul tip is also a strike. So here's a nice little diagram. We're going to see no matter where the ball, where the batter stands, in the batter's box, the strike zone is always over the plate. All right. And the ball doesn't need to pass entirely through the strike zone. If any part of the ball passes through any part of the strike zone, it is a strike. All right. Umpires, we like strikes and outs. All right. So don't be too tight in your strike zone. Give as many strikes as you legally can. Once again, the hands are not part of the bat. You may hear this saying a lot, especially from managers who may be relatively new. The hands are part of the bat. The hands are part of the bat. The hands are not part of the bat. If a batter swings at it and the pitch hits the batter, the ball's dead. Let's see this video. It's a pretty good example.
Next and bat in the 9 spot, and then we're back to the top.
So if that had hit the bat, we would have heard a different sound. Hopefully you guys are getting the sound okay. But that was a very dull sound. That's the sound of a ball hitting a body. He swung at that. That was a strike. All right, the uncaught third strike. We talked about this a little bit just a second ago. The batter becomes a runner on an uncaught third strike as long as first base is unoccupied or first base is occupied with 2 outs. The batter can advance to first base anytime before entering the dugout or any other dead ball area. If they do that, if they go to the dugout, well, they've given themselves up. They have to, read what's happened and start charging down to first base and try to achieve it. So there's a few things to keep in mind when you're an umpire. Uncaught third strike, pre-pitch preparation. This is something that you want to do on every pitch of any situation. You want to know what the situation is. But do you have a runner on first base? If you do, and there are less than 2 outs, then the drop third strike, that batter cannot try to achieve first base on a drop third strike. That's knowing how many outs there are. If there are 2 outs and there is a runner on first base, well, the batter can try to achieve first base. And if there's a runner on third base, then be aware that there could be a play at home. So let's see what the video has for us.
That's strike 3, and Rosario may reach first base, and a run will score on a strikeout.
Gets him to chase an off-speed pitch, down and away, and Trumbo strikes out for the 3rd time. Here comes Pollock, and he's in there to tie the game.
Yeah. So you notice that the home plate umpire stayed home. He'd had to be prepared to make a call on that runner coming down from third base. Foul tip. Once again, foul tip is a strike. But it's a little bit different than a foul ball and a regular strike. It's batted sharp and direct. Has to go sharp and direct to the catcher's hand or glove and legally caught by the catcher. It's a live ball, so runners can't advance. This is different than a foul ball. Foul balls are dead, and runners cannot advance on a foul ball. But a foul tip, runners can advance. You want to treat it as a swinging strike as an umpire. Let's check out this video here. Let's see what we've got going on.
Congratulations to Billy Beane and his staff for pulling off the deal. And Norris caught it. How about that? Not your average foul tip, and Derek Norris stayed with it, and that is a strikeout. Check this out, Shooty.
Well, as a hitter, when you get a little piece, you probably got a little more life left. But Derek Norris, just a tremendous athlete, and the instincts that he has to stay.
It has all 3 requirements: sharp and direct, to the hand of the glove, and legally caught. So that is an out. All right, I shouldn't say it's an out. That's a foul tip. So it'd be a live ball. So it would be an out if it was strike 3. If it was less than strike 3, a runner can advance on that. A fair ball. A fair ball, it's a batted ball. It's got to settle on fair ground, touched in fair territory, or bounds fair past first or third base, on or over fair territory, touches an umpire or player while fair, or it's an in-flight fair out of the playing field. So that means home run. So if it leaves the ballpark, in flight, or ground rule doubles, another example of that. The position of the ball is what matters, not the position of the player. Foul ball is a batted ball that settles on foul territory between home and first base, or between home and third base. That bounds past first or third base on or over foul territory. If first falls on foul territory beyond first or third base, or is touched on or over foul territory, touches on any object foreign to the natural ground. So backstops and overhangs are good examples of that. And once again, the position of the ball is what matters. So how do you determine the position of the ball? Well, think about the baselines are going to be your guiding line here. So in the first picture on the left, we have a player whose foot is got 1 foot inbound and 1 foot out of bound. But the position of that ball looks like we're looking down the first base line here. He's caught that ball in fair territory. The second picture, you got a player who is entirely in fair territory, but the ball is over foul ball territory along the first base line. So that is a foul ball. It's not where the player's feet are. It's where the ball is relative to the foul or fair foul line. One important thing about your calls as an umpire is don't call it too soon. All right, so let the ball finish what it's going to do. If the ball is still moving and it's in foul territory, but it hasn't gone past first or third base yet, let it keep moving until it becomes foul or becomes fair. And there are a lot of different ways where it can become fair or foul. If it hits something or takes a spin off into fair territory, that may be a fair ball at that point. So take your time. Don't make the call too soon, because as soon as you say foul, it's foul, even if the ball keeps moving and goes into fair territory. So take your time. All right, so we are going to do some voting here. All right. So Mark's going to pop up a poll. We're going to watch, I think we've got 4 videos here of different fair foul. And I'll play each one. I think we'll play them once because these are going to be, I think, pretty straightforward. So I'm going to play them once and do your best. This is all anonymous. So make your best call. Just like in a game, you're going to see the play once. You may replay it in your head, but make your best call. All right. So let's watch the first one, and then Mark will pop up a poll. Oh. First one.
Darno bounces that one slowly right to the bag and hits the cushion.
All right. Fair foul. What do we got? Oh, they're coming in fast. I love it. All right, Mark, what do we got? Looks like
we're at 63 people say fair and 13 people say foul.
Nice job.
Yep.
Nice job, everybody. That was that's a fair ball. That went up the line. It contacted the bag. And if it hits the bag, that is a fair ball. All right. All right, let's go to our second example here. Ooh. I'll play that one more time. There is no sound on this one. What do we got? Fair or foul? Please wait for the poll to come up. Great. I'm seeing these results also, Mark. So I've got, we got 50 people that think that's fair, and it looks like about 19 people that got that as a foul. That is a fair ball. That ball clearly started off in foul territory, and then it moved in, started off in foul territory, and then curved into the spin of the ball, curved it right into fair territory. But it was before first base, and so that is a fair ball. You guys are doing great here. All right. We got another good one here. Let's see what we got.
First, RBI
really trying to take advantage of the runner back at third. Remember, the ball just dancing along the chalk line, and it was.
All right. Another good one there. What do we got? We got fair foul. You make the call. We're just going to play that one time. Excellent. Excellent. We got 61 people that voted fair and 9 that voted foul. Really good call, folks. I think the groundskeeper earned his pay for having a nice flat field here. That is a fair ball. If the ball settles on the line, the lines are part of fair territory. And as that ball was moving down the third base line, it looked like there was a moment where it actually went into foul territory and then rolled back onto the line and then rolled onto foul territory and then rolled back onto the line. Good thing about the umpire, he didn't call foul when it moved into the foul territory. As I said before, take your time, let the ball do what the ball's going to do, let it become fair or foul on its own. Don't call it too early. All right, you guys are doing great. We got one more. Whoop. All right, let's look at that one more time. I want to show this. Notice where that first base umpire is stationed. He's in the A position. When we have a mechanics clinic, hopefully we get them. We'll talk about the A position, but the A position is in foul territory. Well, what happened with the ball? What happened with the ball? Let's have a vote. Let's see what we think. Fair or foul? Okay. This one, all right, we've got a little more of a split vote on this. We've got 42 people, or 58%, think it's a foul ball, and 31%, or 31 people, 42% think it's a fair ball. That is a foul ball. It started off in, let me see if I can control the speed of this, all right? So as the ball is struck, you can see it looks like it's starting out over fair territory. It hasn't reached first base yet. It's going right down the line. And then as it gets past first base, it still looks like it's still in fair territory. It makes our umpire get athletic. That's why we always keep our eyes on the ball. But it lands in foul territory. Its first contact with the ground is in foul territory, so that is a foul ball. All right. Great job on the polls, guys. I'm going to turn it back over to Mark, and he's going to take on the catch.
All right, good stuff here. We're talking about whether or not a ball is caught. It's one of the great players of all time, Willie Mays, one of the most famous catches of all time. Over the shoulder basket catch, completely going away. So in order to be caught, a ball needs to be in flight. It has not touched any other things. It hasn't hit the ground. It hasn't hit a fence. The ball needs to be in the fielder's secure possession, in the hand or the glove. It's not in the crook of their neck or in their pocket. It's in their hand or their glove. It needs to be held long enough to prove complete control of the ball. And it needs to be, the release of the ball needs to be voluntary and intentional. So think of those three things: secure possession, held long enough, and voluntary release. Now, there are times when that release is not voluntary. Like if you have the ball and then you crash into something and the ball pops out. Or if you like collide with a player or with the wall, or you fall down and the ball comes out. If you touch that ball and then it hits a member of the offensive team or an umpire, it is no longer in flight when you finally get a hold of it. And so the ball needs to stay in flight and then needs to be held in the hand or glove in order to be caught on a batted ball. Very important for that. If you're in doubt and you have to go out and make that call, think to yourself, did you have complete control? Did you hold it long enough? Was the release voluntary? So we're going to play that video and we'll do the poll. Jim will get back to that video for us. And
there we go.
The poll. Got.
All right. There we go.
Popped up. Who's going to get it? Mason Crane calling it, ranging deep into right field. Did he drop it or was it on the transfer?
No. Should I play that again?
Yeah, let's play that one again. Oh, I'm probably going to cover it up with this, but let me relaunch it.
All right.
Yeah. That's what we get for trying to be too fancy here. We'll get all that. But watch this. See if that's
popped up. Who's going to get it? Mason Crane calling it, ranging deep into right field. Did he drop it or was it on the transfer?
No. So that's the question there. Is that a catch or no catch? And a lot of people are saying no catch. And I can see reasons why you might say it's the transfer. He's reaching in there. But to me, boy, it doesn't even seem like he ever had real control to demonstrate it before reaching in there. But there's evidence, reasons for both of those calls on that. But it looks like a lot of people are saying no catch, but that's umpire judgment. And you could signal that that was on the transfer or that he just never actually had it. That's why you get paid the big bucks to umpire. You got to make those kind of calls as you go along. But those think about those criteria. There are times when the ball goes into dead ball territory. If you end up on the other side of a fence, or there's maybe a chalk line or a rope, if you get in the stands or the bleachers or in the dugout, you need to have not gotten into the dead ball area before you make the catch. So if you leap and you catch the ball and then end up on the other side of that fence, you hadn't touched yet in that dead ball area, so you will still be considered in the field of play. But if you establish a foot down on the ground outside of live ball territory and then make the catch, that is not a catch. So if somebody even leaps and catches the ball and falls over the fence, that could still be a catch. But if they land on the other side and then make the catch, they will be outside of live ball territory. And if you have base runners, you can have a catch and those runners can then be awarded the next base, but they still would need to tag up before getting, or they could be liable to be put out on an appeal play. All right, can talk about a tag play. And tag is can have two meanings here. We talk about the tag of a base in a force out situation, and we also talk about the tag of a player on a tag play. So if we can get to the next part of this slide. So this is the touching the base with the body while holding the ball secure and firmly. So the ball has to be the hand or the glove, but any other part of the body can be touching the base, and you can achieve that force out. You don't have to touch the base with your foot. You can touch that ball with your hand. You can touch that base with your glove if you're holding the ball in the other hand, but it does have to be in the hand or glove and be in your control. On the catch of a thrown ball in this situation, the intentional and voluntary release of the ball is not a requirement. So in a situation where the catch happened before the base runner achieved the bag, you can have a force even if the ball comes out afterwards. If you, in your judgment, determine that there was control, then the voluntary release does not have to happen. We have a play, I think, on that coming up. And let's see if we can see this.
Very deep with the infield in. A lot of room over the heads of the infielders. This one too short. Come home with a force. They get the out there. Did he drop the ball?
The umpire's checking. That ball came out. And he called safe.
Let's see if he had it long enough. It looked like he
All right, so we're going to pull and see what you think. Let me get to the right question. Safe or out on this pull? On that play, it was a force play. The ball came in, catcher had it, and then the runner from third slid into him, and the ball came out. Safe or out? Knowing that the umpire called safe in this play. All right, so our results are a little bit more on the safe side or the outside. And I can see wanting to call that as safe because the ball came out. But if you watch it, you see that that catcher has control of that ball. He has his foot on the bag, on the plate, and that happens before the runner gets there. At that moment, that runner is out. The ball comes out after that has happened. So my call is out, but then I'm in disagreement. I know, Jim, you have an opinion on that play?
Yeah, I think you got it right, Mark. Once again, voluntary release is not a requirement on the catch of a thrown ball. And so that would be the right call. I don't think we set this up quite right, maybe. The bases were loaded, so there was a force.
Okay, it was a force play then.
Yeah, so there was a force at home. And so all the catcher needed to do was be in contact with the plate in possession of the ball in this one. And he was.
Yep. So that's just to point out the difference between the requirements for a force out play and the catch. As long as that happens before that runner gets to that bag, you can have a force out even if the ball comes out later. Now on a tag play, if that ball comes out, then you're going to have a safe if that the fielder did not maintain that control all the way through the play. All right, let's move on. We're getting to the end of our time. So look at where this ball is. It's under his armpit, which not only is that kind of gross, but it's not in his hand or glove. So is that a catch yet? It's not. But is that ball still in flight? Yes. So it could still be caught. Well, if it were a batted ball, it still could be caught as a ball in flight if he secures it in the hand or glove. But at this point, if he's standing, say, on first base and he ends up with the ball there and the runner runs through, that is not a catch for a thrown ball. It's not a catch of any kind. It's just getting the ball gross. We need to sanitize that one for sure. All right, Jim's going to talk about, I'm going to talk about the infield flies, my favorite rule. So think about, this is something you want to think about, a possibility before every play, and you're going to signal it to your partner. Be watching for the infield fly. You need to have a fair fly ball, not a line drive, not a bunt. And there need to be less than 2 outs. And you need to have first and second or first, second, and third occupied. And if the infielder, or if a ball that can be caught with ordinary effort by an infielder is going up, then any umpire can call infield fly, batters out, or infield fly if fair, if it's close to a foul line. And you're looking for ordinary effort, basically that a player's kind of settled under the ball and ready to make make a catch. Even if an outfielder ultimately makes that catch, if it could be done with ordinary effort by an infielder, it still qualifies as an infield fly. The ball is live. Runners may advance if they're on risk. If the ball is caught, they need to tag up just like any other fly ball. And so it gets kind of interesting. But what happens is, because the batter's out, the force is removed and they're not required to run. And so that keeps there from being a cheap double play on a routine play. So let's watch. This is our old friend Barry Bonds. Some of you are too young to remember Barry Bonds, but he hits a towering fly ball that's just barely fair.
Out. Here's the pitch. Bonds swings and hits a pop-up out in front of the plate. Out goes the catcher Barrett. They end up letting the ball drop, but Nafi Perez better just cross the plate. He's standing away from the plate, and he tags the plate, and he scores! The Expos did not know the rule. Now Aurelia goes to second base, and over to third goes Grissom. I don't think anybody in the field knew the rule.
All right, so what happened? The defensive team tried to do a force out, but the force was removed because you could see the umpires. The second base umpire visually on the screen called infield fly. He pointed up, said infield fly, if fair, because that ball could have ended up foul, but you want to call it at its apex. So Bonds was out, but the runners were free to advance because it didn't get caught. They didn't need to tag up. And because they didn't tag him, he scored. So one of Barry Bonds' most impressive RBIs of all time was on an infield fly where he got called out for hitting the ball about 5 feet. So you see what happens on that. It's the key there is that the force is removed. Runners don't have to run, but they can. They're free to run. The ball is live and you play on. It's a live ball, not a dead ball.
Barry was out on that, just to remind everybody. Barry was out because they called the infield fly. And so the fielder who had possession of the ball did step on home plate, but it's not a force. So that runner coming down from third was not out.
Yep. So when in doubt, do the tag and the force and cover yourself. All right. So we are amazingly right on time. Jim, how did you do this? It's just all of that experience. We're about to close up, so we're going to summarize what we did tonight. And as soon as we're done, we're actually I'll stay on. I don't know if Jim can. If people want to continue asking questions, we can do that. But let's summarize what we've done tonight, and then give you a commercial for next week, because we're only halfway there. At the end of next week, we will have covered every single baseball rule in depth, and you'll know everything you need to know forever. No, we barely scratched the surface, but hopefully we've done some good things. We talked about the new rules. On the Little League website, there is a page devoted to these new rules, and just search for it or go to littleleague.org and you can find it there. Go over those in depth. They're also at the beginning of the rule book, and there's a lot of new rules this year. We talked about COVID-19 and the things that you're going to need to do, but check with your local league because they will have the final word. The safety officer there will guide you. You're to follow the protocols, but you're not so much worried about the enforcing of it. You're there to umpire. You're there to call the baseball game. We talked about equipment, what's legal, what you need to be watching for as an umpire. The big thing there is safety. The helmets, the protective equipment for the catchers, even the bats is a safety rule. Those bats are designed so that they will mimic a wood bat and will not have the ball come off with so much force that they're going to cause injuries. That's the big thing with these new bats, is they're meant to be closer to a wood bat and not be the launching pads that were happening for a long time. We talked about what makes a pitch and things about the pitchers. We talked about batting, including the continuous batting order, the legal position for a batter entirely within the batter's box. We talked about ball strike, foul tip, foul ball, intentional walk, bunt, fair ball, foul ball, catch, no catch, and last but not least, the infield fly rule. Coming attractions for next week. We're going to be talking about the runners. What happens when we get out there and we actually put the ball in play and then we start the action. We're going to be talking about interference, runners leaving early, base awards, interference on runners, batters, catchers. We're going to talk about obstruction. You'll learn about the difference between type A and type B obstruction. And the Little League rules about sliding or attempting to go around. We'll talk about appeals. We'll talk about game management. And by that point, we'll have given you a good foundation. So I hope you'll come back next week. It'll be the same link that we had tonight. We had 100 people on our Zoom call, and we had a handful that also found us on YouTube. So my thanks to Jim Molaris for, number one, working with me on this, but these slides are Jim's. We also want to credit Wayne Yoshitomi, who got us started on this slide deck, but Jim's made a lot of changes and updates to it. So thanks to all of you for being here. Thanks for the great questions and things like that. Jim, closing words.
I'm happy to be able to put this together. This gets me like in the mood for getting on the field and doing some baseball. It's just looking at some video and trying to bring some new stuff to you guys and girls to hopefully get you guys in the mood and ready to play some ball. This is, like Mark said, this is half of the rules. There's a whole nother set that we'll cover next week. Plus we'll touch on game management. That was one of those 3 pillars of good umpiring. The third being mechanics. So hopefully everybody can make it next week. If you know others who are interested in umpiring, send them the invitation and get them into it. There are never too many umpires, believe me, never too many umpires.
Yep, and you can look for this. It'll be up on YouTube and you can watch it over and over and over again. And you can share it, send the link to other people. So that'll be out there, and we'll post it on the District 44 website, the link to this, which is cad44.org. And there's other information about umpiring in District 44 and ways to contact people. If you have gone to this clinic, let your UIC or your scheduler know that you are a trained umpire and you want some games. Don't just sit at home and wait for the phone to ring. You need to be assertive. You're taking on an adult role, those of you that are youth umpires. And so it's up to you to get out there and get this happening. So Jim, why don't we stop sharing the screen? And if people want to stick around and ask questions, they can unmute and we can see each other and do some other things like that. But I'm willing to stay on for a little bit. It's not quite my bedtime yet, but will be soon. And there, we can go out there and get this happening. So Jim, why don't we stop sharing the screen?
Oh, yeah, I'm working on that.
People want to stick around and ask questions, they can unmute and we can see each other and do some other things like that. But I'm willing to stay on for a little bit. It's not quite my bedtime yet, but will be soon. All right, well, deja vu all over again, to quote a famous ball player.
All right,
we can get out there and get this happening. So Jim, why don't we stop sharing the screen? Oh, yeah, and people want to stick around and ask questions, they can unmute and we can see each other and do some other things like that. But I'm willing to stay on for a little bit. It's not quite my bedtime yet, but will be soon. All right, well, deja vu all over again, to quote a famous ball player.
Hey, Jim.
Yeah.
All right, we can get out there and get this happen. Yeah. So Jim, why don't we stop sharing the screen? Oh, yeah, and people want to stick around and ask questions, they can unmute and we can see each other and do some other things like that. But I'm willing to stay on.
All right. I dumped my other computer.
Yet, but will be soon.
Hey, Jim.
Deja vu all over again. Yeah, I'm hearing Richard.
I just have one thing for Jim.
Get out there and get this. Yeah. So, Jim, why don't we stop sharing the screen?
I'm not sharing anymore.
People just stick around and ask questions. They can unmute and we can see each other and do some other things like that. But I'm willing to stay on.
There, I dumped my other computer.
Yes, but it will be soon.
Hey, Jim.
Deja vu all over again. Yeah, I'm hearing Richard.
Can you still hear me?
Jim, get out there and get this. So, Jim, why don't we stop sharing the screen?
I'm not sharing anymore.
I think we're in a loop.
We are. They can unmute and we can see each other and do some other things like that. But I'm willing to stay on.
There, I dumped my other computer.
Yes, but it will be soon.
Hey, Jim.
All over again. Oh, man. I'm hearing Richard.
Can you still hear me? Yeah.
Well, this will get rid of people. They'll get tired of this real quick.
I think we're in a loop. This is one way to clear the net. Okay. All right. Voice check. No? Let's see. Maybe I can find the chat and just leave you a question. Let's see. Where's the chat? I'll send you an email. How's that?
We can hear you.
Richard. Yeah. So Richard, I think we're
No?
okay now.
Oh, okay. I heard you there.
But we I think Jim had to leave the meeting and now he's coming
Maybe
back.
I can find. Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. My
Okay.
computer died.
I was just going to give you
a question.
one point, and that is for one screw left out of a helmet. If you address that with the coach,
I'll send you an email.
the first time,
How's that?
he'll know where to get screws.
So,
So when
Richard,
it
I
comes
think
up the
we're
second
okay
time.
now.
Oh, okay. I heard you there.
But we I think Jim had to leave the meeting and now he's coming
Maybe I
back.
can find. Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. My
Okay.
computer died.
I was just going to give you a question. One,
I don't know what's going on with this.
and that
All
is
right. I'm
for
gonna
one
I'm
screw
gonna
left
end
out
it
of a
for
helmet.
everyone and
Yeah.
we'll just call it.